Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am back, finally. It's been just about a year since I have last posted any videos. Sorry about that. Life just kind of got going. I kind of had decided that I wanted to take a little bit of a break, and that turned into a year-long break. But I'm back. Here to give some life updates, talk about some notable reads that I've had recently, as well as kind of what I'm currently reading. So, kind of some life changes. I don't know if you noticed here, I just got back from the doctor, so that's why I have this here. It's not quite ready to be taken off yet, but some life changes. There's been some big ones. I just recently left my old job. I was working as a scheduler with a pain management clinic. So my new job I'm going to be starting in June, the very beginning of June. I'm going to be with a tech consulting company. It's a Salesforce consulting company. I'm going to be doing some entry-level work, doing kind of the configuration as well as being kind of the note taker in meetings, writing up some documentation, things like that. But I am very, very excited. It's fully remote, which is huge for me. The pay is much better. It's going back into more problem-solving work, which is what I miss doing at my job that I had with the lab that I used to work at. So I think all around it's just going to be a really good change for me, and I am hoping that with the remote work I'm going to have a lot more time to kind of, do the videos, get back into that, because I won't have the travel time, which did take up quite a bit of my day, or a significant chunk at least, just because I don't drive, so I take the city bus. But then another big change is that my husband is doing the Pacific Crest Trail. Super proud of him. So the Pacific Crest Trail is 2,650 miles from the California-Mexico border all the way up to the Washington-Canadian border. It's going to take him about 5 to 6 months, and he just left at the very end of April. So just left. It's still a big change. I'm still getting used to, him being gone. It's just me and the toasters, but we are getting through it. But those are some of the big life changes. Now I'm just going to talk about some of the notable reads that I've had so far this year. I do think one on my stack is actually from last year, but I did want to mention it. So actually, I will mention that one first. So that one is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. If you guys remember, again, I know it's been a while, if you remember, I really loved his other book, The Devil in the Dark Water. I think this is actually his first novel. And so I finally read it, and I know a lot of people seem to not like this one as much as The Devil in the Dark Water, because it's slower and it's very repetitive, but I loved it. I really did. I had a great time with this. I gave it 5 stars, which is why I wanted to mention it here, also because it is kind of like my newest, I guess, top favorite mystery that I've read. So it's got a bit of a speculative element in it. Basically, every day our main character it wakes up in the different body of this guest at this big mansion, where the daughter of the family that lives in the mansion dies. So every day for 8 days, our main character wakes up in a different body, learns different things, and has to solve the mystery of who killed Evelyn Hardcastle by the end of it. And I loved this. It is repetitive, but I think each repetition, each time the main character wakes up in the body, the day starts over again, because it's wakes up in the morning, leads into the night that she is killed. You learn something very new, and you learn things that make you doubt what you learned before, and I just had a really fun time with this. Again, love the speculative element. The atmosphere was great. I really liked our main character a lot, and it was it was a good time, and I highly recommend it. So then going into the first book that I read this year, that would be We Spread by Ian Reid. This first book that I read of 2024, and it was a 5-star. This is Ian Reid's most recent novel. I think it came out last year. He wrote I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which I listened to an audiobook a couple years ago. Loved it. Highly recommend the audiobook for that one. And then they do have a Netflix film for it. I don't think it had as good of it wasn't received as well as people wanted it to be. And I think that's just because of the nature of the story. It doesn't tell itself well visually. Really, I think it is best told in a book format. Anyway, he also wrote Foe, which is also, it's actually up here somewhere. And then, so I haven't read it yet, but I have it. I'm planning on reading it. That one is also being made into a film. Saoirse Ronan, who is played in Lady Bird and Little Women, she's going to be the lead in that. So very excited because I like her as an actress. But anyway, We Spread. This does not have a movie being made out of it yet. This book is hard to describe in the same way as I'm Thinking of Ending Things, because it doesn't feel like it has much of a plot, and so you have to be really careful about what you say about it, about what happens in the book, without spoiling it, you know? So we're following our main character, and I'm blanking on her name, Penny. She is an artist. She lives by herself in this apartment, and she had a partner who had passed away several years ago, but had it all set up where she goes to this very secluded long-term care residence for elderly people. Very secluded, very, very few people. There's only 4 or 6 residents. And so she gets sent there. She does not know anything about it, doesn't realize that this has been set up for her. But she gets sent there, and it's basically her trying to understand why she was sent there, and she becomes very distrustful and restless, and starts thinking that there's something else that is happening in this long-term care residence. It's quieter, like how I'm Thinking of Ending Things is quieter, where there doesn't really feel like there's much of a plot until suddenly the reveal happens. However, this one is even quieter than that, where even the reveal is a lot more subtle than I would say I'm Thinking of Ending Things is. I think this one kind of makes you think a little bit more about how you want to interpret what's going on. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but I think outside of you just trying to think about what's happening in the story, I think it makes you think a lot about old age and how it affects people both mentally and physically, as well as kind of how the elderly are often left by themselves. By family and friends. I don't know, I think this one is just, again, I can't really talk about what it really makes you think about without spoiling it, but I think if you liked I'm Thinking of Ending Things, I think you'll like this one. You might not like it as much. I actually liked it. I gave I'm Thinking of Ending Things 4 stars, and I gave this 5. I liked it in a much different way. And again, I know I'm being very vague, but if you like the kind of thought-provoking element, the very, very slow aspect, where suddenly you get to maybe the last quarter of the book and you're suddenly finally connecting what all has been happening, if you like that aspect of the books, I'd pick this one up. And then another book that I read recently, this one I didn't give 5 stars, I gave it 4, but I feel like I still wanted to talk about it because I just had such a great time with it, even though I only gave it 4 instead of 5, and that is Dark Corners by Megan Golden. The reason why I had such a great time with this is, so this is a thriller, and I think it had this nostalgia vibe for me. It reminded me of Criminal Minds. I used to be obsessed with that show. Me and my parents used to watch it all the time growing up in high school, and there's really not a lot of behavioral profiling and all of that stuff, but there's enough in here that it just reminded me of a Criminal Minds episode, and I had a great time with it. Basically, you're following this main character, Rachel, who She runs a true crime podcast, and you're following her as she gets invited to kind of this investigation where this influencer, like TikTok van life influencer, goes and visits this guy in prison who's about to be released in like a week. And he was arrested and in prison for robbery. But the police have often suspected that he's actually behind several serial murders. They've just never been able to actually convict him of those murders. And so this van life influencer goes and visits him. They don't really know why. The like microphone that recorded the conversation was broken, of course. And then she disappears the next day, but he's obviously still in prison because he's got a week until he gets out. So the police think that the guy in prison has an accomplice on the outside, and that is who went after the influencer. And Rachel, the host of the podcast, her name gets brought up. And so then she gets pulled into this investigation, and pretty soon it seems like she is starting to be targeted. And I just had a really great time with this. I liked kind of how the influencer culture got brought into this. It was very interesting. I just liked how fast-paced this was. I like more detective-esque thrillers, and you do follow one of the detectives, like an FBI agent in this book, which I really liked. Yeah, just in general, like I said, the main reason why I really liked it was it gave you the vibe of like a Criminal Minds episode. So if you enjoy kind of crime TV, and especially Criminal Minds, I would pick this one up. And then I also wanted to mention Assassin's Apprentice and Royal Assassin. They are the first two books in the Farseer trilogy, and my first kind of introduction to Robin Hobb, who is kind of one of those big classic modern classic fantasy, I guess you could call, authors. I've been wanting to read her for a while. She has like 6 different, I guess, trilogies that are all interconnected into this one universe, kind of like how Brandon Sanderson has the Cosmere. She has the Realm of the Elderlings. And Assassin's Apprentice is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. Royal Assassin is the second. And then there's Assassin's Quest. Third one, haven't read it yet. I did just finish this one yesterday, actually. I am having a really great time with these. So I gave this one a 4 and I gave this one a 4.5. Basically, you are following our main character, Fitz. He is the bastard of one of the princes, who is the king in waiting. Actually, he is, so he's the heir to the throne. Is Fitz's father. And you start out in the first book when Fitz is 6 years old. In the second book, he's like between 15 and 17, I would say. So you're basically, book 1, you're following him from the age of 6 to the age of 15. Here you're following him over the course of like 2 years. And he is basically struggling with trying to make sure that he stays useful enough to be kept alive. And so he gets trained as an assassin. That's why it's called Assassin's Apprentice and Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest. He basically becomes the king's assassin. Now, that being said, that makes it sound like there's going to be a whole host of, like, murder. That makes it sound like it's going to be high action, that it's going to be very fast-paced. That is not the case with these books. I feel like putting the word assassin in all of these titles kind of missells these books. And while they aren't fast-paced, I actually think that they're quite slow. And while there's not high action at every page turn or whatever, and lots of assassinations happening, that's not the point of these books. The point of these books, these are very character-focused books. It's basically Fitz and all of the side characters are the ones really driving the plot. Like in some fantasies you have characters which are basically just like used as pieces to move the plot along, and the book is very plot focused. In this case, the characters themselves are what bring these books to life, and they're the ones driving the plot. And I will say this one gets a lot more exciting than this one. This one is very much an introduction to Fitz, as he tries to figure out like where his starting point is in terms of his place in this world, in this court, and he's meeting all of these different characters. While they are very long and very slow, I think it really aids well to you as a reader getting to know these characters and really getting to understand, you know, what makes them tick, what their driving factors are, what they want out of life, what they're afraid of, kind of their motivating factors, and then how they interact with each other and how like deep some of these relationships are. And that's why I really love these, because these characters are just so good. I love them so much. And a lot of this, there's a lot of, especially in Royal Assassin, there's a lot of like political intrigue, a lot of, you know, subterfuge and multiple plot lines, and having to be careful of who you let know different pieces of information, things like that. But yeah, I'm really having a great time with these, but I highly recommend that if you decide to pick these up, go into it knowing that it's not going to be high action assassinations all the time. While there are assassinations that happen, because, you know, Fitz is working as an assassin and he has to be able to prove that he is useful to the throne, that's not even close to what the main focus of these books are. And I'm just having a really, really great time, and I plan to pick up Assassin's Quest very, very soon. But I really like Robin Hobb's writing, and I just think that she really thrives in character writing. Highly, highly recommend these. And then, of course, I had to let you guys know that I finally read these. Finally read A Court of Thorns and Roses and the whole ACOTAR series. I'm now caught up. I finally read them. I've been putting them off because I loved Throne of Glass, loved the first Crescent City book. I hated the second Crescent City book, but we're not going to get into that quite yet. But I was not sure if I wanted to read these because they are really hyped. B, they just, when I read the summary of A Court of Thorns and Roses, it was not necessarily what I wanted to read. Like, it just didn't really interest me, but I figured I gotta give it a chance. Gotta try it. It was time to read it. I read it. And you know what? I still love A Throne of Glass more. I will say that. I still love it more. But these were good. And I had a great time and I enjoyed them. Basically, this series starts out with our main character, Feyre. They're in this world where there's like the human realm, and then there's like this wall, and then above the wall on the map is like the fairy realm or whatever, and the wall separates them. Feyre lives in a little poor village that's really close to the wall, and she has to take care of her family. She goes out hunting in this like woods that borders the wall, and she ends up killing this wolf that ends up not being a wolf. It was a fairy in animal form or whatever. And so then High Lord of the Spring Court is like, you killed one of my people, I need you to pay for that. And so here we go, we're gonna do a life for a life, but I'm gonna take you and you're gonna come live with me because I'm nice and I'm not gonna kill you, I'm just gonna kidnap you. I don't know. But then she ends up getting entrenched in kind of these fairy politics and this whole plot, because bad things are happening. That's very vague, but if I speak too much more, I'm going to spoil it. I'm sure most of you have read this. This is like so popular. So I don't want to get too much more into detail in case you are like me and maybe, you know, haven't read it yet. I only read these recently. I think I read the first 3 last year, the end of last year, and then I read these 2, the last 2 this year. I will say, so these first 4 follow Feyre, and she's got 2 sisters. This one follows one of the other sisters, Nesta. And if I had to pick between Feyre and Nesta, like who my favorite is, hands down it's Nesta, because like I enjoyed Feyre's story, but I felt like she was kind of bland as a character. Nesta is a type of character that SJM has not written. Her other main characters, Aelin from Throne of Glass, Feyre from A Court of Thorns and Roses, Bryce from Crescent City. Like, they're different enough, but they all kind of have very similar characteristics that they share. Nesta here, like, she's so unlikable. She's so prickly, and, like, basically, the best way to describe her is a stone cold bitch. Like, that's what she is. But that makes her so interesting compared to all the other characters. Not saying that they aren't, not saying Feyre is not interesting, but I think Nesta was she was new to read from. She was a new perspective and I think she just made this story really interesting. This was way too long. Like, this was way too long. I don't think that this needed to be that long. However, I also understand why it was this long, because this really battles with Nesta having to overcome a lot of mental and emotional issues that she has gotten from earlier in life, as well as these 4 books. And so, you know, it kind of represents the fact that you don't just immediately get over that stuff, that it is a, you know, take 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a journey. But yeah, I really liked Nesta a lot. And again, nothing against Feyre. I like her too. But I just found Nesta more interesting to read from. But yeah, I enjoyed these. Again, I like Throne of Glass better, but these were still a very good time. And then the last book that I have read to talk about is the final Crescent City book. This is the 3rd, and what I assume is the final book in the Crescent City series, so House of Flame and Shadow. This is Sarah J. Maas's newest series. And I know that a lot of people did not like this one, and so I had put off reading this one for several months, actually. First of all, I needed to finish A Court of Thorns and Roses, but then I was afraid to pick this one up because, if you guys remember, I hated House of Sky and Breath. I thought that it was boring, and gratuitous in the sex scenes. There's way too many, and I just was not nearly as invested in the storyline as I was in the first one. Thought that SJM took some really, I guess, lazy, like, decisions, in my opinion. Like, things were way too convenient to be satisfying in the second one, and I really did not like it. And then I was hearing a lot of people that were reading this right away did not like this one. Now, a lot of people liked the second one, but the fact that I didn't like the second one, and then people who liked the second one weren't liking this one, I was like, oh, great, because they just said that people were complaining that this was not good, the ending was bad, and so I went into this with 0 expectations. I actually was like actively worried I was gonna not like it, but you know, I was gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, but I had 0 expectations for it, and I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars, but I had a good time. I can see why people don't like the ending, but I thought that this was good. There were very few sex scenes. Where they were in there, you know, they made sense. It wasn't gratuitous. We really were focused on the actual plot this time, and the actual story. were some things still like annoyingly like extra convenient and wrapped up in a tight little bow, to the point where it just wasn't satisfying? Yes. However, I was highly entertained with this still. I liked the multiple shifting between plot points very quickly. I liked how she did that because it kept me engaged. Because I happen to enjoy all the plots that were involved in here. I know some people were complaining about one in particular, but I liked it. I had a good time. So I am actually now officially 100% caught up on all of Sarah J. Maas's stuff. Again, I still think the Throne of Glass series is my favorite out of all three of them. This one would have arguably contended and maybe beat out Throne of Glass if it wasn't for the second book. But yeah, I think Throne of Glass is still my favorite of her series. I did like this ending though. I did like this final installment. And then I just wanted to do a quick little talk about what I'm currently reading. I have an audiobook that I'm currently listening to. It's called The Watchers. I'm listening to it on audiobook. It is a horror novel. There's a specific patch on this road, basically in the middle of nowhere, where people get lost on, and then their cars and everything turn off. We're following our main character Mina, who that happens to. She's driving along, and all of a sudden her car shuts down, her watch stops ticking, her phone dies, all at the same time. And so she has no choice really, because there's nobody around, and she hasn't seen like a house or anything for like several hours. She's just like in this remote countryside area. And so the way that I'm picturing how the road is the road literally you're driving and then it like dead ends kind of into this forest. So she has no choice but to walk into the forest because there's nothing behind her. So she's hoping that if she just keeps walking, she will find somebody. But basically she keeps walking and it starts to get dark out, and then she sees this light. What are you doing under there? She sees this like little light, and there's this lady yelling at her to run and hurry up to get into this little like bunker. So she's booking it, gets into the bunker, and it's her, the lady, and two other people. The lady locks up the bunker, and suddenly there's all of these like unearthly screams, and these creatures called the Watchers come out at night. And there's no way to really leave this place. There's no way to escape from the forest. Are you good? Are you good? There's no way to escape from the forest. And so it's basically the four of them trying to survive and figure out what the Watchers are and how are they going to survive. And I'm liking it so far. I'm a little under halfway. The narrator has a Irish accent, which is very pleasing to listen to. I don't think it's like my favorite horror book that I listened to, but it's definitely very, very entertaining. The author's really trying to get you to dive into kind of the minds of the characters. However, they still feel kind of one-dimensional, I guess, or slightly cliched. I don't know, but the actual story and the plot itself I find entertaining. And then my next, like, physical book, I haven't started it yet, but my plan is to start Murder Under Her Skin by Stephen Spotswood. This is the second Pentecost and Parker murder mystery. The first one I'll put a picture of up here. It was Fortune Favors the Dead, which I really liked. Basically, we are set in the 1940s, and these books follow. The younger one is Will Parker, or Willow Jean. She was a circus runaway and joined up with the older one, world famous detective Lillian Pentecost, and basically they solve murder mysteries together. This one in particular, we are going back to the circus that Will used to work for, because the tattooed lady has been murdered and found with a knife in her back. And it is suspected that Will's teacher from when she was back in the circus, the knife master, the knife throwing guy, is the one that murdered her, but yet you know, there's enough clues that it's like it doesn't really look like it's him, but they're not sure. And so, you know, it's a story of them solving the mystery. People don't really want to give answers, even though Will is well known there, that type of thing. So I'm excited. I liked the first one. It's got the very classic 1940s noir vibe with two very fun female detectives, and yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it, hoping to have a great time. But that is kind of my general, I guess, life update and notable reads update. I really hope that I can get back into making regular videos. I really miss doing this, and I need somebody to talk to books about again, because you know, Connor is gone for the next 5 to 6 months. So sorry, there's dog hair everywhere now. Cause I just pet you and now there's dog hair everywhere. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, really hoping that I can be back into being more regular about making these videos. And I really appreciate you guys watching. If you want to stick around and, you know, hopefully get more updates, consider subscribing to my channel. But again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!